Hi, it's Darnell with Wave Oven Recipes, and today I'm going to be making a smoked brisket lasagna using the Emerald air fryer oven. And we're going to see how that does cooking up some lasagna right now. Alright, so let's go over the ingredients for this smoked beef brisket lasagna. Got maybe about 3/4 of a pound of smoked beef brisket here. If you've been keeping up with my Grill channel, you know I did a smoked beef brisket a while back, and this is the flat part of the flat. I'm going to basically get this chopped up, ground up, so it'll kind of be like ground smoked beef brisket, but this is already cooked. I've got a box of whole grain lasagna here. You can use whatever lasagna you prefer, but this is 13¼ ounce box of whole grain lasagna that I'm going to use. I've got 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese. That'll be the topping cheese for this lasagna. I've got a 24-ounce jar of marinara sauce, and I've got 15 ounces of ricotta cheese in each of these, so basically 30 ounces of ricotta cheese in total there. And may use all of that, may use a little less if I don't need it, but we'll see how much I use, but may use all 30 ounces of that. So what I'm going to do, get this chopped up as I mentioned. Going to get the lasagna boiled up so that it's nice and boiled. And then when I bring you back, it'll be time to assemble all the ingredients together and get them into the cooker. Alright, so let me show you what I've been up to while you were away. After I got that brisket basically shredded up using kind of like just one of those chopper things to chop the meat up with, I mixed it up in the marinara sauce and heated that up, so that's been simmering for a while. And I've got my lasagna all heated up here that was boiling, so that's nice and hot and ready. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a thin layer of my meat sauce and put it on the bottom of this 13-inch bake pan without handles. And this is a nice USA steel pan that I'm using. And although nothing in this video is sponsored, if you're interested in something like the pan or the cooker or something, you can find in the video description links to like my referral shop, and you can go there and you can find things like the pan and the cooker and other things that you might be interested in. But just put down a thin layer. I'm not trying to use too much meat sauce in this bottom layer because I'm going to need to basically use a good bit of meat sauce through this. So I'm trying to make sure that I, don't waste it all in the first run, or even the second run, or even the third run, because there's basically about 4 runs of meat layers that you have to do in this. So I want to try and basically conserve as I'm building my lasagna here, but the bottom gets the meat on the bottom, so just gonna finish up getting some meat kind of in those corners and such, so just finishing that up. Alright, now that I've got my meat layer down, there are 15 of these lasagna strands here, so I'm going to take one sheet, well, I'm going to take 5 sheets per layer of these lasagna strands and put them down. So just going to try and take 5 sheets and lay them out as neatly as I can on this layer here. And as I always say, I'm not the kid who got the A in art class, so it is a definite fact that you will do better laying yours out than I will do laying mine out. But I'm just going to finish with getting this first layer of 5 strips of lasagna laid out. Alright, so with my first layer of lasagna laid down, my lasagna strips there, I'm going to put a layer of meat, a thin layer of meat sauce on top of that. Again, trying to go thin because after this layer, I'm going to need 2 more layers of meat to finish this thing off. So I just finished getting this layer of meat laid out here. Alright, so with the second layer of meat laid down, I'm going to try and see if I can get this whole container of ricotta cheese laid down in a layer. So just going to basically keep scooping it out and get a layer of ricotta cheese laid out on here. Alright, so with that layer of ricotta cheese down, I'm going to do 5 more strips of my lasagna here. Alright, so now with that layer of lasagna down, put down another layer of my meat sauce and try and conserve enough for one more layer. I'll just kind of go sparing. I guess if you want, you can use 2 cans of the pasta sauce, and that way it'll double the amount of the meat sauce you'll have. Now I'm going to use this other container of ricotta cheese, put it out in a layer. Alright, so with that ricotta cheese down, I'm going to put down my final layer of lasagna sheets. Can't say it right. My final layer of lasagna sheets. And with that last bit of lasagna down, now I just put down my last bits of meat. Alright, so with that last bit of the meat sauce out, going to take my couple cups of mozzarella cheese and just try and spread that out all over the top of my lasagna. Alright, so with the lasagna fully made up, now it's time to get the cooking here. So getting the cooker whipped up here and going to switch to bake. And I'm going to leave it at 350, but I'm going to hit the time temp twice to get the time. I'm going to increase the time to 35 minutes. So we're going to do 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 minutes. Going to hit the preheat and going to let things preheat. I do have a rack on the second rack level up. Once it's done preheating, we'll get it on in there. Alright, preheat is done, so I'm going to go ahead and get this on in here. Just like that. Kind of heavy, a lot of food on there. So, alright, we'll let that go ahead and cook, and gotta hit the start button for it to start cooking. So we'll let that go ahead and cook. I'll bring you back. Alright, so 20 minutes have passed. The top, that lasagna is getting pretty brown, so I'm opening up to try and see if I can put something on top. I could tell that that rack was, slightly struggling earlier when I put the pan on it, but it seemed like it was going to hold just fine, but it looks like that rack really can't, this lasagna is just a little too much weight, so that's interesting. We'll see if the bake pan can hold it. I mean, the bake pan seems to go a bit more flush across the edges, so we'll just leave it in the bake pan. And we'll let this cook for about 14 more minutes with that lid on there, then I'll bring you back. Alright, 6 minutes have passed with the foil on, and you see my foil got pulled up by the fan, which is never fun. That's not cool at all. Alright, let's see how it does now. Okay. Oh boy. Hope that's gonna be okay. Let's see. Pretty strong fan, but it looks like it's holding this time, so thank the Lord, I think we're good to go now. So we'll just let it play out its last 8 minutes before we, check it out. Alright, so we're coming into the last minute, and you hear that fan? The air fry fan runs by default even on bake. I guess I could have turned that air fry fan off, but it basically just defaults to having the air fry fan on bake, so I just left it at a default setting. But you hear that fan sound, it sounded just a little rattly there for a moment, but that probably helped contribute to getting the top, really brown kind of faster. But I'm going to go ahead, once it's done, I've got my thermopin, I'm going to get in there and just confirm the interior temperature is good and hot, because I always like to just check and make sure that down inside things are nice and hot like we want them. So this is our lasagna, and go inside. You can see I'm like in the 170s down in there, so things are good and hot. So I'm just going to get it and put it over here on this little rack to cool for a moment. So there we go. I did overcook my top by a little bit, but all the same, I think it came out okay all the same. So there's our completed lasagna. Now while that cool down fan is running, it runs for a couple minutes, I'm just going to try and get myself a bit of my lasagna out of the pan here. So just, you know, kind of sliding the spatula around, making sure nothing is sticking to any part too much while I get some out. So there we go. Here's our lasagna out and plated. So let me try and I'm going to try and get it off the spatula without causing it to fall apart. But you can let me know what you think of that brisket lasagna there. I'm going to take my knife and just try and cut a piece for our taste test purposes. And I'm going to get the camera moved around and then we'll do a taste test. So there's completed lasagna. Still piping nice and hot. I did wait for the cool down fan to stop before doing this taste test, so you don't have to hear that in the background. Try and get the piece that I tried to nicely cut off for this taste test, but it's not wanting to balance on my fork very well, so we'll see if I can get it up without making too much a mess here. Let me try and get it this way. There we go. Alright, so let's taste. Thank the Lord for this lasagna and pray I don't burn my mouth. Alright, now my brisket tastes good. The lasagna, I guess the parts that got, you know, really heavily cooked on top have a little bit of a crunch to it because it was, you know, cooked pretty hard. So inside, very moist, very, you know, soft taste to it. Overall, it tastes good. You do, you know, if you're going to have, you know, you can turn the air fry fan off, or if you're going to have it on, you know, maybe just have it open for maybe 10 minutes and then cover it up after 10 minutes. So that your top doesn't get too browned over. But all the same, you are able to do a lasagna in the air fry oven, and I do hope that this helped any of you. If you know you want to use a different meat like chicken or you know, ground beef, you can use that. If you want to do a different sauce like an Alfredo sauce with the chicken, you can do that. You know, you can mix things up if you want. But I will say that the boiled lasagna works way better than that ready to use in the oven stuff that you don't have to boil. And I did do that in the earlier video, that stuff that, you know, is ready to bake type lasagna, and demonstrated that, and that comes out a bit more crunchier, let's say. But anyway, with all of that said, in the video description there are ways to help the channel. There's my cookbook, there's, like I said, referral links. Also, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, and in the video description as well, there's a link to this video, to this recipe, sorry, not video, link to the recipe. And also, you can go to my blog, superwaveovenrecipes.com, to check out other recipes and such there. Now, you can also subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, share the video, hit that notification icon, and good eating.